In 2026, something so massive and frightening is about to happen that even the world's most powerful leaders don't know how to respond. This prediction didn't come from science or governments, but from a blind woman who saw the future more clearly than anyone else. Baba Vanga. She left behind a sealed prophecy for that year. And now, it has been revealed. Its contents are shocking, terrifying, and raise a question no one wants to face. But everyone needs to know. She was born in 1911 in a small village in Bulgaria, poor, blind, and unknown to the world. But what she carried inside her was something that would later shake nations and scare even world leaders. Her name was Baba Vanga, and even without sight, she saw more than most ever could. If you believe in God and Jesus Christ, make sure to like and subscribe to Mysterious Paths. God bless you. Baba Vanga lost her vision during a violent storm when she was just a child. Her family thought her life would be one of silence and shadows. But not long after the blindness, something strange began to happen. She started describing things she couldn't possibly know. People came to her with problems, and she gave answers that saved lives. She predicted deaths, accidents, political events, and most frightening of all, global disasters. What made her different wasn't just accuracy. It was the way she described things that hadn't happened yet, with dates, places, and names that later became headline news. The fall of the Soviet Union, the Chernobyl disaster, the death of Princess Diana, the 9/11 attacks, the 2004 tsunami, the rise of ISIS. She spoke of them years, sometimes decades before they occurred. She never wrote books, never chased fame. Yet even high-ranking politicians and scientists visited her in secret. Many left shaken. They called her the Nostradamus of the Balkans. But for millions, she was more than that. She was a voice from another world, one that warned, guided, and revealed what was coming. Today, her predictions are being studied again, because among them, one stood out, a sealed prophecy for the year 2026, a warning so powerful it was hidden for decades. And now, it's no longer hidden. For decades, many laughed at the idea of a blind woman predicting the future. But over time, the laughter turned into silence, then into fear. Because one by one, the words of Baba Vanga started to come true, with shocking precision. She once said, "The American brethren will fall after being attacked by the steel birds." At the time, no one understood. But after the tragedy of September 11th, 2001, those words were read again, and the meaning was undeniable. The Twin Towers fell after being hit by airplanes. Steel birds, American brethren, a chilling match. She also spoke of a massive wave that would cover the coast, killing thousands, long before the 2004 tsunami devastated parts of Asia. Entire cities were wiped out. Over 200,000 people lost their lives. Baba Vanga had warned about the sea, bringing death without warning. In the 1980s, she predicted that the Soviet Union would collapse, which many thought impossible at the time. Just a few years later, the Soviet flag came down, and the world changed forever. Again, she had seen it before anyone else. Perhaps even more frightening was her statement that a black man would become the 44th president of the United States. That came true with the election of Barack Obama. But what she added after is what disturbed many. He will be the last. Every fulfilled prophecy added weight to her name. Even those who didn't believe in mystics or visions couldn't ignore the evidence. These weren't vague guesses. They were specific, real, and dangerous. And now, with a sealed message from her finally opened for 2026, people are once again afraid. Because if she was right before, What if she's right again? Baba Vanga didn't just predict events. She saw what kind of world we were becoming. And what she described was not just a timeline of disasters. It was a spiritual war, a growing conflict between good and evil, light and darkness, that would test the very soul of humanity. According to her visions, the world would enter a period where truth would become hard to find, and evil would wear the mask of good. She warned that people would be misled by false leaders, and even the most faithful would feel confused and lost. She often said that the world will not end in fire, but in lies. For her, deception was the real danger, a slow destruction of human values, faith, and compassion. She described a future where faith in God would be ridiculed, where people would stop believing in love, in community, and in family. In its place, a cold society would rise, one where technology would control minds, and spiritual emptiness would spread like a disease. She warned of a generation that would know everything, but understand nothing. But not all of her visions were dark. Baba Vanga also spoke of a light rising from the chaos, a group of people who would not lose their faith, who would hold on to what is right, even when the world around them falls apart. She believed that this spiritual resistance would be the key to saving humanity, not armies or money. In her words, the future will belong to those who carry light inside, not those who chase it outside. She believed the battle would not be fought with weapons, but with choices, in the heart of every person, every family, every generation. Among the hundreds of predictions Baba Vanga made throughout her life, one particular year always stood out: 2026. Unlike other years where she gave clear and direct warnings, this one remained wrapped in mystery. She often mentioned it with a strange seriousness, sometimes pausing before speaking, as if she saw something too heavy to be spoken out loud. Close people around her said she would often repeat the same sentence in her final years: "In 2026, the silence will break." No one understood exactly what that meant. And unlike her other visions, which were often shared openly, the one for this year was recorded and sealed, kept hidden in a private archive, locked away by those who feared its contents. Why did she treat this specific year so differently? Many researchers who studied her prophecies believe that 2026 marked a turning point, not just politically or economically, but spiritually and morally. A year that would separate the past from a very different future. She never called it the end, but rather a new cycle, something that would come with great pain but also a deeper transformation. Some believe she saw a collapse of something massive, something the world depends on but takes for granted. Others suggest she foresaw a shift in global consciousness, triggered by a mysterious event that no one expects. Her followers say the fact that she chose not to reveal it openly is the clearest sign of its seriousness. Because whenever she remained silent, it wasn't out of fear. It was out of respect for the weight of what she saw. Now, with the sealed prophecy finally opened and its contents slowly being revealed, people are beginning to understand why she warned about 2026 so carefully, and why the mystery around this year was never a coincidence. Not all of Baba Vanga's predictions were shared with the public. Some were spoken only once, recorded by those closest to her, and stored away under strict protection. Among them, the most guarded was her vision for 2026. This prophecy was not forgotten. It was sealed, placed in a secure archive with clear instructions. Do not open until the world is ready. But what does it mean for the world to be ready? According to those involved, the decision to seal the prophecy wasn't made by Baba Vanga herself alone. It involved government officials, spiritual advisors, and scientists, all of whom were deeply unsettled by what they heard. They believed that revealing her vision too early could cause mass panic, confusion, and even social collapse. It is said the prophecy was written down by hand, translated carefully, and placed in a restricted vault in Eastern Europe. For decades, only a small circle knew of its existence. The contents were locked behind both political and spiritual reasons. Some feared the message was too powerful, not because of magic or mystery, but because it spoke directly to the heart of mankind's biggest fears. The time to reveal it came only recently, after a long period of global instability, pandemics, wars, spiritual crises, and a world more divided than ever. Those who had protected the prophecy believed the world had now reached the point Baba Vanga spoke of, where silence could no longer protect anyone, and the truth, no matter how painful, had to come to light. Her sealed vision wasn't hidden to protect power. It was hidden to protect hope. Because what she described for 2026 wasn't just a warning. It was a final call for awakening. For years, the sealed prophecy for 2026 remained untouched, resting inside a secured archive under the protection of a private historical institute in Bulgaria. Only a handful of trusted individuals even knew of its exact location. But earlier this year, a quiet but serious gathering was held behind closed doors. The purpose: to finally open what Baba Vanga had left behind. Witnesses described the moment as heavy, filled with an unusual silence. Some of those present were descendants of people who had worked directly with Baba Vanga. Others were religious leaders and scholars. When the document was unsealed, it wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a handwritten message, wrapped in cloth and tied with a faded red ribbon. The handwriting was fragile but clear, written in her native language, using old expressions and symbols. The first lines, according to translations now being studied, didn't speak of politics or science. They began with a warning. The voice of the earth will rise, the sky will change color. What was solid will become ash, and man, proud of his progress, will fall to his knees before the invisible. Those words alone sent chills through the room. The prophecy didn't name countries. It didn't mention specific dates or leaders. But it described events in poetic, symbolic terms, terrifying because of how they matched the fears of today. Climate collapse, unknown threats, and the loss of human control. The document also contained drawings, simple, almost childlike symbols: a burning tree, a shattered clock, a circle of people with no faces. Each image is now being analyzed by spiritual historians. No official translation has been released to the public in full, but those who saw it say the message is clear. What's coming will touch every soul. The sealed prophecy didn't predict the end of the world. It spoke of something far more complex, a global transformation that would begin in 2026. Baba Vanga described it not as a single moment, but as a series of events, like falling dominoes, each triggering the next. It would shake the way we live, how we think, and how we treat one another. Her words pointed to a breaking of systems, political, economic, environmental, and even spiritual. Institutions that seemed untouchable would be exposed as weak. Governments would struggle to respond. The prophecy mentioned, "The foundation of the strong shall tremble, and the voice of the forgotten shall rise." Many believe this is a reference to growing unrest, protests, or revolutions, not caused by war, but by the collapse of trust in those who lead. She also warned that nature itself would turn against mankind. In one part of the prophecy she wrote, "The winds will speak louder than armies, and the waters will climb where feet once walked." This has led many to believe she foresaw massive environmental changes, storms, floods, and droughts happening in places once thought safe. But perhaps the most disturbing part of her message was about the human heart. She said that people would be tested not by force but by choice. That families would be divided, not by violence, but by belief. That what people trust in today would be ripped apart, forcing each person to decide between comfort and truth. This transformation wouldn't destroy the world, she said. It would reveal it, expose what has been hidden, and bring to light the lies we've accepted for generations. For those who are awake, it would be painful. But for those who remain blind, it could be fatal. In the pages of the 2026 prophecy, one phrase stood out. From silence, a voice will rise, unknown to kings, but known to the broken. At first glance, it sounds poetic, but those studying Baba Vanga's writings believe this points to the rise of a new world leader, one completely unexpected, coming from a place where no one would think to look. She described this figure not by name, title, or nation, but by character. A person shaped by suffering, not wealthy, not powerful, someone who had walked through fire and survived it. She wrote, "He who has eaten with the poor will one day speak over the powerful." For those interpreting her words, this could mean a leader rising not from politics or military power, but from faith, struggle, or service. This figure, according to the prophecy, would not be accepted immediately. In fact, Baba Vanga predicted that the person would be attacked, doubted, and rejected at first. The world, she said, would not recognize wisdom when it comes wrapped in humility. But over time, in the middle of global crisis, this voice would be heard, not through media or force, but through truth. The most curious part of this vision is that Baba Vanga seemed to hint this leader would have no desire for control, yet would be followed by millions. She referred to him only as the shepherd, a symbol often used in religious texts, especially in Christianity, to describe someone who guides without chains, leads with compassion, and fights evil without violence. Whether this refers to a spiritual leader, a political outsider, or a voice of moral authority remains unclear. But one thing is certain. Baba Vanga believed that the one who rises in 2026 would not come from power, but would come to correct it. Not all danger comes with sirens, explosions, or breaking news. Some of the most devastating threats arrive quietly, unnoticed, while the world is distracted. According to Baba Vanga's 2026 prophecy, the greatest danger of all would not be seen, only felt. She referred to it simply as the silent shadow, a force already in motion, already spreading but ignored by most. In her words, it will not knock, it will seep. It will not scream, it will whisper. And before they look up, it will be everywhere. Those interpreting the prophecy believe she wasn't describing war or natural disasters. This was something more hidden, a threat that moves through people's habits, choices, and daily lives without being recognized. Some believe it could be tied to technology, the rise of artificial intelligence, digital surveillance, or manipulation of information. Others believe it refers to a global shift in thinking, where truth is replaced by confusion, and people are no longer able to tell right from wrong. She warned of a generation that would trust machines more than God, that would trade their freedom for comfort, and their beliefs for convenience. And as this invisible danger grows, people will begin to feel a strange emptiness, a loss of identity and direction, even though they may seem to have everything. What makes this threat so dangerous, according to the prophecy, is that it will not feel like an attack. It will feel normal, acceptable, even welcomed. But slowly it will weaken the human spirit, blind the heart, and break apart the bonds between people, families, and faith. The silent shadow is not coming. It's already here. And Baba Vanga's warning is not about fear. It's about waking up before we no longer remember what it means to be truly alive. In the heart of Baba Vanga's prophecy for 2026, after the warnings and symbols of crisis, came a message that stood in quiet contrast to the fear. Only those with true faith will stand. She didn't speak of religion as an institution, but of faith as a living force, something deeply personal, powerful, and unshakable. She wrote, "When the winds of change roar and the ground beneath you breaks, only the roots that grow deep in faith will remain." According to her vision, this coming transformation would test everything: systems, relationships, even reality. But those who remain grounded in spiritual truth would not only survive, they would shine. Baba Vanga warned that many would seek safety in money, politics, and power, only to find those walls crumbling. She spoke of false saviors, systems offering peace without soul, and people trading truth for security. But she made it clear, faith would not be found in the noise, but in silence, in prayer, in trust in God. She saw a time when even believers would be shaken. Churches might be empty, and faith might be mocked. But a small group, humble, quiet, firm, would carry the light. These people would become pillars in the storm, helping others find hope, clarity, and direction. They would not preach loudly, but live faithfully. This isn't about surviving physically. It's about not losing who we are inside. Because the greatest threat of 2026, she believed, is not war or collapse, but the temptation to give up on love, mercy, and truth. Her message is clear. Spiritual strength will be the shield. It won't prevent the storm, but it will carry us through it. Not because we are strong, but because God is. Baba Vanga's prophecy for 2026 does not force belief. It doesn't beg for attention. But within her message, there is a quiet certainty that those who choose to ignore the warning will suffer consequences deeper than they can imagine. She wrote, "To turn your back on the signs is to walk blind toward the fire." Those who mocked, delayed, or refused to open their eyes to what was coming would not be punished by some external force. Instead, they would fall victim to their own pride, distraction, and denial. The prophecy describes a world where many will keep living as if nothing is wrong. They will continue chasing wealth, arguing over power, wasting time with empty entertainment, even as the world around them begins to crumble. Baba Vanga called them the sleepers, people who see the signs but refuse to change. For them, the shift of 2026 would not be an awakening. It would be a collapse. Some believe the consequences refer to emotional and spiritual ruin, anxiety, despair, loneliness, and confusion. Others interpret her words more literally, warning of economic downfall, loss of freedom, or natural disasters that will catch people unprepared. But whatever the interpretation, one truth remains. Those who do not prepare their hearts will be the most vulnerable. She didn't say everyone must become a prophet or live in fear. Her message was simple. Open your eyes. Listen. Prepare your soul. Not out of panic, but out of wisdom. Not to escape pain, but to stand through it with purpose and dignity. For those who laugh at the prophecy, life may go on. For a while. But when the silence breaks, they may realize too late that the warning wasn't about fear. It was about mercy. Even in the midst of chaos, Baba Vanga's prophecy offers a message of hope. Not for everyone, but for those who endure with faith, humility, and truth. She wrote, "The fire will not destroy all. From the ashes, the faithful will rise and build what was lost. Not with hands, but with spirit." This part of her vision speaks of a new beginning, not just a recovery. For those who hold on to their values, protect their faith, and care for others during the dark times, a better world will emerge on the other side. She described this time as the quiet after the storm, when hearts would heal, communities would rebuild, and people would finally understand what really matters. Baba Vanga didn't promise comfort or ease, but she promised renewal for those who stand firm. She said the suffering would reveal the truth about ourselves, about others, and about God. The pain would strip away the lies, and in that space something beautiful could grow. She described a generation of restorers, people who had survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were honest, kind, and full of light. These people would lead the world into a new way of living, with more love, more faith, more respect for the earth, for each other, and for God. This promise isn't about a perfect world. It's about a healed one where people finally stop chasing illusions and return to what is eternal. Baba Vanga believed that even in the darkest time, there would always be a spark of grace for those who choose faith over fear, truth over lies, and light over darkness. And from that small spark, a new world would begin. When the sealed prophecy for 2026 was finally opened, those expecting only words were surprised. Alongside the carefully handwritten message, a strange symbol was drawn at the bottom of the page. Small, simple, but clearly placed with meaning. It wasn't mentioned in any part of the text, and Baba Vanga had never used symbols like this in her past writings. Yet there it was, a circle divided by a thin vertical line, with 3 dots on one side and a single cross on the other. Experts in ancient symbology, religious texts, and even mathematicians have studied it, trying to understand its meaning. Some believe the circle represents the world, the line a division, and the 3 dots a representation of mankind, separated from the cross, which may symbolize faith or God. If this is true, the message could be devastatingly clear. Humanity has become divided from the divine, walking in one direction while faith remains behind. Others interpret the symbol as a spiritual warning, a visual prophecy. They say the 3 dots could represent body, mind, and soul, and the cross could be the only anchor that brings unity back. If that's the case, Baba Vanga may have been telling us that the only way to survive what's coming is to reconnect fully with our spiritual foundation. What makes this symbol even more mysterious is that it doesn't appear in any known religious or historical system. It seems to be unique, possibly something she saw in her vision, something she couldn't describe in words. Some have begun calling it the mark of the turning. Whatever the true meaning is, one thing is certain: Baba Vanga didn't draw it by accident. And those who study her work believe that within this small, silent image lies a final clue, one the world still hasn't fully understood. Near the end of the 2026 prophecy, hidden between poetic warnings and strange drawings, Baba Vanga left behind something that still puzzles experts today. A fragmented sentence, written in a different style from the rest of the text. Unlike her usual clear and structured phrases, this one was broken, as if unfinished. But those who read it believe it's no accident. It was meant to be solved only when the time comes. The words read, "When the sky reflects what is beneath, and time loses its rhythm, the path will appear, but only to those who see without sight." What does it mean? Scholars and spiritual leaders have debated endlessly. Some believe this is not a literal riddle, but a spiritual code. A message that can only be understood by those who are spiritually awake in 2026. In other words, it's not just something to be solved with the mind, but with the soul. Others have connected this line to natural phenomena, like strange skies, shifts in weather, or unusual events in time and technology, possibly referencing satellites, mirrored surfaces, or even artificial intelligence confusing reality. There are even those who believe this riddle is a prophetic key, and that when the right moment arrives, this sentence will make perfect sense and guide the faithful towards something important: safety, wisdom, or purpose. What's most haunting is that Baba Vanga left no explanation for this line. She didn't answer when asked about it. She simply smiled and said, "You'll understand when the silence ends." That phrase, "when the silence ends," appears multiple times in the prophecy, always linked to this final clue. Many now believe 2026 won't just bring events. It will unlock understanding, but only for those whose eyes are open and whose hearts are ready. At the heart of Baba Vanga's prophecy is not just fear. It's a call, a wake-up call for every home, every parent, every believer. The message she left for 2026 is not about predicting the future for entertainment. It's not to shock or scare. It's to prepare the soul, to protect what truly matters: your family, your faith, your foundation. She didn't speak to governments. She spoke to you, to the father trying to protect his children, to the mother holding her family together, to the person who feels something is deeply wrong in the world, but can't explain why. Her words are a light in the middle of confusion, saying, "Hold on, be strong, do not let the world steal what God gave you." The prophecy reminds us that security is not found in money, in power, or in comfort. These things pass. But faith, truth, and love, those are eternal. And in the time of great shaking, they are the only ground that doesn't break. She warned that those who ignore the signs may lose more than their homes or routines. They may lose their sense of who they are and what they were created for. But she also gave hope, strong, clear, powerful hope, that those who stay rooted in what is right will endure, that families who pray together, who forgive, who help others, will become islands of light in a sea of darkness, that no matter how much changes around you, the spirit inside you can remain whole. This prophecy is not the end. It is the beginning of a choice, and the most important choice now is what you will do with it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. God bless you.